What's going on, everyone? It's your boy James, and we are back. I don't know if this is a continuation or a start of a new video, but here we are. We are still working on the Zeda 100 Max. As of right now, we've done a lot of cutting into the cylinder. We've done filing on both sides of the exhaust and the intake to make them nice and flush with a big old file. I ended up using the Dremel tool. As you guys know, I like to use the Dremel tool with this little extendo stick for my cuts. And I tried to use some long bits to do some transfer cuts and stuff like that. We'll get into these a little bit later. But we ended up doing pretty good. I was very happy with it. This is not the end all to be all. The angles were not that ideal. Plus you're dealing with like a lot more torque and longer distance and harder to control, so I didn't get great cuts with those like I was hoping to get. Not necessarily damage, but I just didn't do as much as I was hoping to with that tool. I think the end-all be-all is going to be one of those setups that hangs down, and it's just like a RPM motor that has the extendo thing, and then you can get 90-degree angle cutting tools, so we'll look into that in the future. Anyways, I digress. So we'll take a look at that here in a little bit. Everything's all mounted up. I do have the cylinder torqued down, and we'll talk about that and my next step with that. But what I want to show you guys real quick is actually we got a new goodie in the mail. This is a CDH power head. It is actually made to fit these 100cc motors. So it's going to be quite an upgrade compared to the head that came not with the kit. I actually paid extra for this double spark plug head from that company. Sorry, I'm blanking on the company. So as we noticed, the spark plugs were definitely hitting the top of the piston with this setup, and I probably should have checked a long time ago. I don't know if it was just carbon buildup or anything like that. I don't think so. I really don't think it was carbon buildup, because that doesn't make sense, because we actually have nicks in the actual piston. I don't know. We'll see, right? But the reason why I was running like that is because that was stock. I just wanted to see how I was running stock, and I probably should have taken the time to see if that was going on, and we could have done something different. So this is the upgrade that I went with. I went with this one just because this is kind of a little bit more affordable for everyone, and I just kind of think that at the time when I bought this, I actually had Amazon points, so I ended up getting this. But I just really want a quick comparison. If you guys do have the extra coin, I definitely highly recommend getting the upgrade for a smaller performance head. Right off the bat, you'll see like the CDH power might look bigger, and I guess technically it is a little bit fatter. But you got to think about the different techniques that went into this head. One, you're getting way better milling right off the bat. Two, you have these fins on the bottom, which is going to separate this middle part, which is great. And if you see, these fins are cut at an angle like this. So that way, when you're riding your bike, you're actually taking in more air coming in, and then you're squeezing it, and you're going to actually create more, not more flow, but what am I trying to say? More speed in the air, and it's actually going to move quicker, and then you're actually going to get more cooling. So there's actually a lot more engineering that goes into these smaller performance heads. And I think they're well worth the money. To me, it's well worth, if you have your budget, it's well worth saving up an extra couple bucks just to get, like a couple months just to get this pristine head. I just wanted to get this one just because at the time, like I said, I had Amazon points, and I just wanted to keep this project moving. And that also, comes down to it. This is affordability. I think these go for about, and you can custom get these heads too. They make them for your small China dolls. They make them for your 50cc or your 50 millimeter, and they make them for the also for the 52 millimeter pistons. So I think they come with 3 different heads, and I think they'll actually custom make ones because they make them for the Minarellis as well. So you got like a lot more customability too with the small performance heads that they make. But this is just more, will help us with cooling. We're not going to get a better, like look at the combustion chamber in the Smolok. It's just way better built. It's just better engineered, man. Just way better. But like I said, this is like, like for the average Joe, and I had the points, so why not? Anyways, guys, I digress on that. Shout out to Smolok Performance. Ethan and Kurt, you guys are awesome. Not sponsored by them by any means or anything like that, guys. Just like what they do. I just like their customer service and everything that they do. Alrighty, everyone, we are back, and we have the cylinder finally washed. We have finally made all the final, I believe, modifications. As you remember last time, we grabbed our files. Well, we made our line for our transfers so we can try to get them at least closer, which we're going to see here in a second. And we use the files to go ahead and achieve that with the permanent marker going around so we can get at least a little bit closer. So I started using the files, started having fun, you know, put it on an Audible book and just doing my thing. And I just started looking at it and just started looking at the transfers. I just wasn't 100% happy. So what I ended up doing is actually going back with the Dremel and taking just a grinding stone and just going crazy in there and cleaning it up and trying to smooth out stuff and just get rid of some bumps and some different things that I did not like necessarily about how the transfers were looking. So let me go ahead and show you what other files I was kind of using. So I ended up using these ones quite a bit, actually. The one on the left has a flat edge, but I ended up using the one on the right quite a bit more. Just use the crud out of that thing. And I did end up going back and using some of these ones right here. Just a good angle to really kind of get in there and just try to take off some of that sharp edge right there. It's a lot harder than you think. And I could sit there and probably even get better and get more stuff like that. But time is not always of the essence. So we push forward. So those are the main files. Those ones right there, guys. Those guys right there. And I had other ones that I was using a little bit here and there. Just that was the kind of main ones. And then after that, what I went through and did was take some Scotch-Brite. Just some good old... what color is that? Like tan? Orange? Orange tan, and it's a specific one that's made for metal, actually, if you guys want to know, so you can use that for your pots and pans. But I went through there and just kind of got off all the harsh edges that I wasn't able to get off with the grinding stone. I actually, funny enough, did go quite a bit back into here and use this file quite a bit to do also as an intermediate, I guess. So I did grinding stone, went through with this file and really got in there, and then Scotch-Brite, and then I went through with 1000 grit. There's two, I think, lines of thinking with your transfers as far as your airflow. Well, there's 1000 lines of thinking, guys, really, let's be real. So one, I'm limited with the tools I have. I definitely need to get a 90-degree, I don't know, rotary tool or whatever you want to say, and you could do a lot more with that. But looking at this one specifically, what I like to think about is, I think the Tin Man talked about this a little bit. If this is like perfectly smooth, which you can definitely achieve, I struggle with that, just not maybe the right tools and maybe just not the greatest hands and stuff like that. But if you can achieve getting this completely smooth, there's one way of thinking is that the air fuel mixture goes nice, doesn't hit any issues, just cruises right in and then goes where it needs to go and doesn't have any issues. I think the Tin Man was talking about one time, maybe it's made this up in my head, but maybe someone said you don't always have to go super crazy smooth with this, because if you still think about it, think about like how we like to tear up those intakes. So, you know, I like to tear up my intake because I want that air and fuel to be tumbling and being agitated and mixing as it goes into the cylinder. So as the volume and compression changes, as that piston's going down and releasing the air-fuel mixture, if this is at least a little bit kind of shooken up or not like 100% smooth, it's still going to kind of tumble. It's still going to kind of mix a little bit. So you're going to get a little bit better mixture that's going to be more evenly mixed as it hits into these transfers. Boom. I don't know. Two different ways of thinking. Let me know what you guys think. So I did my best. This is the first time I've ever come to transfers. So what I ended up doing in my head, I want this transfer, which is going to be on the exhaust side, is on the right, or on the, the right side. Sorry, I keep bumping you guys. Is I want this to expel back towards the intake, because once that exhaust opens, we want all that bad exhaust gas to start exiting out, right? Well, if these two open, going towards the intake, then that is gonna go ahead, that fresh charge is coming in here, sorry, bumped you again. And we're gonna go ahead and push that exhaust out. Okay, it's happening on both sides, right? Pushing that exhaust out with the fresh charge, and we're gonna get more. It's gonna come around and sweep, same thing, it's gonna sweep, it's gonna collide. I aimed for about right there, about halfway from the top, from the bottom of the intake. I aimed for about halfway. That's where I kind of tried to aim everything, is for my transfers. It's gonna collide there, and then it's gonna go ahead and keep pushing that exhaust out. And then all the other magic happens when it starts to close. You hit that new charge from the pulse, is your resonance hitting in right there, and that's also gonna hit the fresh charge in. And if that's still pushing, you're gonna have that push against that, and you're gonna have it perfectly timed, boom, and then process happens a lot of times really fast. So that's my thought process with this. What I also did was spend a lot of time on measuring where these rings are gonna drop. You can see how far, really where the wear and tear is. You can see the wear and tear stops right there. I just want to give it a little bit extra meat just to make sure. So I got like, what, I don't know, 4 or 5 millimeters that I saved. And then two, remember, you're gonna be removing material. You're gonna be creating more heat because that material is not gonna be absorbing heat. And so you're gonna be losing that advantage. So do remember that. But another thought process is you are going to be potentially pushing more air with this bottom transfer part cut off. So if it's the air's moving faster, you're also cooling more, you know? Stuff to think about. This porting theory, especially in two-strokes, man, it is so, guys, it is so in-depth. And this is just a noob watching stuff from other guys and just me trying to mash it all together in my head. Anyways, so what I ended up doing too is I widened this quite a bit, because what I want to do is I want this to be wider, and then as everything gets deeper into the transfers, I want it to get squished, because it's going to go ahead and push harder. So if you're taking, I think that's a volume change, right? So this entire thing's been kind of hollowed out and everything. So for this transfer towards the intake, everything's hollowed out right here, all the way through here, all the way through here. And I'm trying to bounce it kind of off this back plate right here. And then I have it opening the best of my ability with the tools I have. You can kind of see right here, I did cut because I want that to be big, hit, and then this is where the path is. Coming boom, and then explodes up and out, up and out. So that was my thought process. And the kind of same thing on this side, a little bit reversed because I changed the path. The way that this transfer was going to the exhaust, it actually opens up towards the exhaust. So we did have to come up in here because I want to change that path. And think about this area right here has been hollowed out. And I just kept taking my cutting tools and just get smaller, 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 smaller. And then boom, explodes out right there. So big volume to small volume. Think of like a syringe. Oh, that's what I was trying to think of. Johnny talks about it all the time, a syringe. So you have your syringe and you're going to keep building that pressure with that piston because the piston's going to be closed. And the way I have it cut, it's going to open on this side right there first, and that syringe is going to squeeze out there. So bigger volume to smaller volume. As the piston opens up, you're pushing the crank pressure from the crank case volume up through there, boom, explodes out through there. I'm not doing a great job of explaining it, guys, so there's a lot of stuff going in here. I'm trying to big volume to small volume, and I'm trying to keep the air mixture going with these little ripples all the way through there. And not trying to mess it up because you don't want to get too far on your transfers, from my understanding, because you also still want to keep your blowdown pretty good. The last thing I did do before we go on to the next thing we need to do is I did take this 1000 grit sandpaper and I just went in there and just cleaned it up a little bit. But you got to also remember, I got to get these right where those pistons are, right where that piston is going to be, where rings are going down. I need to get those chamfers nice and perfect, and I got it pretty good. And I do hit that with the 1000 grit sandpaper on all of the ports, all the way around. I did that on both sides. Did that on both sides. Even right here, even though it's going to open it up. I mean, like we're talking like 1,000 grit sandpaper, but we want that to be a smooth transfer with those piston rings. Even there, hit it all up in there, from there to there. Don't worry about doing anything. And I really went through and got up in here. And I spent a lot of time on the exhaust port. I don't go super crazy on there. You can go super crazy, but it's shiny enough. It's going to get carbon buildup, but what is going to stick on there is going to be pretty dang smooth. It's pretty smooth to touch. You can spend hours on that stuff, man. I did go through and take, like I said, I spent so much on this file, man. I did smooth everything out and made it a little bit more even transfer of air. So I fine-tuned this. So where are we at? Holy cow, talk forever. Where are we at? What we need to go ahead and do is we're going to get our measurements next. After that, we're going to go ahead and use our new head. And we're going to go ahead and get our piston squish with our top head gasket here. On there, we'll take our solder and we'll go through that process. Then the last thing we'll really need to do, guys, is for the cylinder, is we'll sand off the top of the head and get that all nice and pristine and ready to rock and roll. Then after that, we're going to be going on to the piston and doing some modifications from there. I do want to say one thing. Thank you so much, Kevin. You're the man. Check him out, Kevin Shop. I'm taking a lot of inspiration from him with what he did and stuff like that, with my, intake and capabilities. So, he has the fastest LD 100 in the world, I still believe. So, that a boy, let me remember, Kevin, how fast that sucker was. Freaking fast. It was awesome, dude. It was awesome. So, I'm not chasing Kevin, but I'm definitely going to have fun taking a lot of his inspiration and a lot of Dave's inspiration and just having fun and learning. So, alrighty, guys, stay tuned. Alrighty, everyone, we are back, and we're going to go ahead and instead of going through all the camera angles and all the jankiness, and for the sake of time, we're just going to go over the numbers that I got after porting this cylinder. I'm not 100% done, and I'll explain why here in a little bit. It's just some super micro changes I got to make on one side of the transfers, but we'll go over that here in a sec. Long story short, I'm pretty happy, and we have some dramatic differences, especially some places I didn't expect. But I'm overall pretty happy and pretty excited to see what we can go ahead and achieve after this port job. Do remember this is the second port job I've ever done on a motor. We had the Wildcat, which we'll go ahead and compare those numbers, and now we have the Zeda 100 Max. So we went from the 47.5 millimeter piston to the 50 millimeter piston, and we're going to upgrade the head. So here we go, guys. Our original readings, which was not stock because we had the one base gasket. So remember, we added another base gasket to give us two base gaskets to help bring up our intake, so that way we can get more exhaust headed out in that direction. So that's why we did that, to help drop that piston down a little bit and to give us a little bit more on the top end. We could have potentially put a shim in there or try to go 3, but as we covered, we would have had crosstalk, which basically I explained in one of the other videos, or maybe this video in the beginning. Who knows at this point, right? So we're at 2 base gaskets, and our original readings were, for our exhaust opening, we had 82 degrees. Then our transfers, sorry, I was like reading all this other stuff. We don't need all this stuff right now. 82 degrees, and then our transfers were 54 degrees for our transfer blowdown. That gave us a transfer blowdown of 28 degrees of blowdown. Our intake opened at 58.5 degrees, give or take. So then these are just durations. Don't worry about any of that stuff. But keep an eye on the transfers for sure and this blowdown. Alrighty, off-camera measurements. Again, just to save time, guys. Our exhaust opened at 84 degrees. Our transfers now open at 63 degrees. Transfer blowdown, exhaust minus transfers, we have 21 degrees of transfer blowdown. 21 degrees of transfer blowdown now. Intake ended up being 61 degrees. So looking at everything, the whole totality, our changes were changes in degrees. We had a change in degrees in the exhaust of 2 degrees. Transfers, 9 degrees, which was huge. Our transfer blowdown changed 7 degrees. So what does that all mean? Well, not 100% sure. Learning, that's what it means. Alrighty. Just kind of comparing some of the ported Wildcat numbers to what we have now. So this might be kind of tough. So I should have done subtracting, actually. Maybe I'll do that off camera, but it looks like we have a 10 degrees difference, roughly, in the Zeda versus the Wildcat. I'm trying to math real quick. That looks like maybe a 9 degrees difference in the transfers. If I had to guess, right? Math. And then our blowdown was only 1 degrees difference, which I found super interesting. This is really interesting to me. It was 1 degrees difference in the blowdown. Our intakes are actually pretty close comparatively. We have 61 and 62. So 1 degrees difference overall on the intakes. We do have to remember that we did skirt the piston on the Wildcat 80. Lots of numbers to kind of dilate. This is why I have the book now. We can go ahead and speculate. I'm going to kind of maybe on this side right here just write down some stuff and just try to make those comparisons and stuff like that. So really good idea. If we make a grenade or a dud or anything like that, we now know maybe some different tolerances or anything like that. Or if we make a rocket ship and it goes, you know, super fast, but we have no guts, we know why too. All right, so what I really want to talk about though is, I'm gonna get some coffee, sorry. Is our blowdown. So let's go ahead and get up here. I figured we can talk theory more than anything. I think that would be more interesting. Just a little bit maybe. So with that blowdown, really what I'm trying to shoot for, since we only have 1 degrees difference really from the Wildcat versus the Zeda 100, what my thought process is, I wonder if I can get you guys more like that. That might cut me kind of hard. So my thought process is, man, I don't know, because you can't see the exhaust. Alrighty, for the sake of not making this forever long. What I want to shoot for is we lost a lot of blowdown is what I'm trying to say. We have that 7 degrees of technically lost degrees of blowdown. And what that means is the exhaust, the time between the exhaust and when the transfers open now, we basically have less time where that exhaust is open. So that means less opportunity for the transfers, or less opportunity for the exhaust to be open and less exhaust gases to escape before the transfers open and start sweeping around with the new air mixture, causing even more cleanage out. But since we're so close to the Wildcat, I'm super excited because I think that means that we're going to go ahead and have quite a bit of power. That's what I'm trying to say. Is we're trying to get a good balance between power and exhaust, or power and top speed is what I'm trying to say. Sorry guys, I'm super tired, but I'm also getting over from being sick, so you got to stay with me. Who knows what I'll also edit out. The biggest interesting too is going to be our our intakes are very close. So our intakes are opening super close. But what I did was I skirted that off at the top dead center on the other one, and we're not going to do that this time. I think this is going to help a little bit of velocity and all that jazz. And it's also going to help balance our piston, because we want to keep our piston nice and balanced. Just for long-term longevity and stuff like that, with no revalves and stuff like that. So that's kind of my thought process there, guys, is we're going to keep the piston the way it is for balance later on. If you guys check out Kevin, he completely tears apart his LD100, and he does so much, guys. I'm learning so much from that video. I just have a long ways to go besides tearing in the bottom's ends and doing all the poor matching. So highly recommend checking out his stuff, guys. Highly recommend checking out his stuff. Besides that, now we're going to go ahead and get our piston squish. So what else, guys? What other port theories? Do you guys like that job? Do you guys not like the job? Do you guys like those numbers? Do you hate those numbers? I don't know. Let me know. I only have the one motor to compare as far as cuts. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get that piston squish gap figured out.